Hello, today is the 33rd Sunday in Ordinary Time. Our first reading is from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 12, verses 1 to 3. Our psalm is Psalm 16. Our second reading is from Hebrews, chapter 10, verses 11 to 14 and 18. And our gospel is from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 13, verses 24 to 32. We have all heard the story of Chicken Little. An acorn falls from a tree, hits Chicken Little on the head, and he thinks it's the end of the world. He runs around the animal kingdom telling everyone that the sky is falling, the sky is falling. And it is tempting to read this gospel today through the Chicken Little lens. The sun is not shining. The moon refuses to shine. The heavens are shaken. It's the end of the world as we know it. Doom and gloom. And that's sort of the point of apocalyptic narrative like this. And scholars will tell you that in this passage, the one that precedes it especially, Jesus is foretelling the destruction of the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. And he's warning the disciples of the impending persecutions that they will endure. And he's describing his second coming, and he's reminding the apostles to be vigilant in their faith, because they do not know when he will return. That bad things will happen, but ultimately, Jesus will come with great power and glory to gather all his children together from the ends of the earth. And many a sermon has been preached on remaining vigilant, because we know not the day of the Lord's return. Stay true to our faith in this old sinful world that's falling apart. But it is easy. It is too easy these days, with the advent of fake news as an overarching concept. It is too easy to say, hold on there, Chicken Little. Just calm down. Nothing is messed up. You're being very undued. RELAX. Relax. Because we don't want to give in to sensationalism. We want to believe that Jesus was only talking about the temple in Jerusalem and the persecutions of the apostles. And besides, Jesus said he was going to gather us from the four winds, from the end of the earth to the end of the sky. So don't worry your pretty little head, Chicken Little. It was just an acorn. And I do think that ultimately there is nothing to worry about. Not because it's only an acorn, but because of what Jesus said toward the end of our passage today. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. Let me say that again. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. And that's what gives me solace, because I look around and I think that Jesus is talking about us just a little bit during the doom and gloom part. He was referring to the destruction of the Jewish temple, but might he also be talking about the destruction of our temple, our institution? Not that I'm advocating tearing the church apart, but when you look at the institutional church, it's already being ripped apart. Clergy sexual abuse is back. Never left, really. And our leaders are ill-equipped to solve it. They met in Baltimore this past week, in fact, the U.S. bishops, to talk about it. Luckily, the Vatican asked them not to vote on their proposals, probably because their proposals were garbage. They wanted to update the code of conduct for the bishop. I guess they didn't know that abuse was wrong, and they didn't know that covering it up was wrong, since it wasn't in the code of conduct. And they want to establish a third-party hotline to report abuse and misconduct by bishops. Of course, there is already a third-party hotline to report abuse. As well as any other crime, their number is 911. They're always open, fully staffed from what I understand, been around for years. The bishops also talked about a review board with the laity on it, which sounds good, unless you realize that they probably aren't going to give it any teeth. It would probably be advisory, like all the other boards that they let lay people be on. We will take your recommendation under advisement. And that's the end of that. There's a definite disconnect between these shepherds and the flock. A common complaint about not being able to vote on these proposals was that they, the bishops, needed to do something to show people they were serious about it. It's still a PR problem for them. It's still an image thing. They are against abuse because it looks bad. And lame resolutions that don't change anything don't actually make you look any better. So maybe the sky is falling a little bit as attendance drops and parishes close and people tune Catholicism out because, wow, we still don't get it. It feels like the end of our Catholic world. We worry that baptisms are down, But then, of course, we push baptized people out the door once they grow up and turn out to be gay or divorced or unworthy in some other way that we dream up. We're on the decline statistically, except maybe among brown-skinned people south of Texas, but a lot of us don't act very much like we really want those people up in here. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. That's what gives me comfort in these trying times. The sky may be falling, but Jesus' words will remain. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Our institution may be going through it, but the institution was never what saved us. Only Jesus can save us. Only Jesus ever could save our souls. And he gathers us to himself every day, showering us with his love and his compassion, in spite of our world, in spite of our church, in spite of ourselves. No matter how much our world crumbles around us, no matter how much our temple is destroyed, no matter how much the sky is falling, Jesus always remains, saving us in spite of our failings, loving all of us unconditionally and eternally. That's what gives me hope. That's what gives me peace.